Hello, welcome to the start of this 4-part Python series. I plan on teaching the basic functions, lists, loops, as well as providing an array of practice questions. So to follow this one, I'll be using the most recent version of Python, version 3.12.4, although future versions will have no major differences. When you open up Python editor, it should look something like this, with these 3 dashed lines here. With that you can write just simple one-lined things, so it's useful as a calculator, as I'll talk later, like that, but by pressing Ctrl N or File and New File, you can write multiple lines. Here are some of the operators that you can use. So for example, if I want to do 3 multiplied by 4, or 4 multiplied by 3, it should give us 12. Lovely. Now we'll look at some of the basic functions that we can do in the shell, the idle editor. So the first most important thing is to know what a variable is. So we can have a as a variable or a word. So if I wanted to do the height and width, I can make these variables. Say the height is to 13 and the width of something would be equal to 5, and then I can multiply these variables together, so area equals height times width, and then I want to know what that is, so I'll tell it to print this variable area here, just for an example. And when it runs, it gives us that answer. So it prints the area, prints this variable here. So it's just a variable is a stored value that the computer reads, and we can use that, take advantage of that to create functions like this. Furthermore, we have a list of functions that we can use to our advantage. We have the print function, which I've just done here. Printed the area. We have the sum function, so we can sum of 2 or multiple different variables. The input function, where it asks the user for an input. And finally, the integer function, although there's many later, but we'll explore them as we discover lists, strings, and others. We can also tell it to print a string, or other words, print some text for us. I want it to print hello. We can also tell it to give us some text. So I want it to print hello world here. And if we run that one, it will print that for us. Lovely. We can also have input with a prompt. So let's say I wanted to ask what your name is. And then I run it. It'll ask us here, what's your name? And we can give a response. And so we'll take our response and store it for later. Finally, I'll look at the int function. So if I wanted to ask how much money do you have? So if I wanted to ask how much money you have, the response will be a number or an integer. I don't want it to be a string, which the input function usually brings out as. I can store it as a variable and then just print our answer here with that variable. How much money do you have? I have 5 monies. I'll just print out that. Note that if I do $5, it won't work because this $sign can only be taken in as a string and not an integer. Now we will look at if, else, and elif. Sometimes we want a conditional state where we only want to run a certain program if a certain condition is met. So let's say we have two variables, a being 4 and b being 5. Now we only want our program to run if this one is larger than that one. So if a is greater than, then this colon here will mark as then, and then there'll be an indent here. An indent is required, otherwise it will make an error. And if this is true, we will print yay. And we run that, and obviously it doesn't give any output because it is false. So we can also add else. If this is true, print that, else print no. And then now if we run it, we see in our output that we get no. However, sometimes we want multiple conditions. What if we also want to know whether they are equivalent? So they are now both equivalent. So now we have elif a is equivalent to b. Notice how I have two equal signs here. This is because I'm wondering whether this is true or false, whether it's a Boolean statement. Now, in this case, I will print OK. Otherwise, it will print no as before. Let's see what happens. And this time it prints OK. It checks if it is greater than. If A is greater than B, that condition is not met. So this is not true. And it goes on to the next statement. Elif A is equivalent to B, it is true, so it prints OK. So we don't need to worry about this one. But if neither of these conditions were met, it would always print no. So if A is greater than B, if we change this to 7 again, obviously that's not true anymore, it prints no. If it was less than, it is true, the first one is true, and it prints yay. Nice. This first part with a practice question. So I want to automate a system to assign grades to each of my students based upon their grade percentage. And here we have a little table of what our requirements are. So A equal to or greater than 90, B equal to or greater than 70, and so on. So we don't need to worry about percentage sign when doing this. I will do the first one with you. Here's our student grade. And we want, and it doesn't really matter what the actual percentage is, but I want to test it out by making it to be 67. Okay, by doing end A grade, I will say if student grade is equal to 90, or student grade, or student grade is greater than 90, print A. Make sure let's capitalize that. And this is what we're going to do for all of them. We're going to say whether it is equal to or greater than. Notice how we can't just put it like that. We have to write the variable both times. I will give you a couple seconds to work it out on your own, and then I will fill out the rest with you. So this is a complete answer. So what we're saying is if the student grade is greater than 89, but less than 101, so this means the grade is either between 90 or 100, because it's exclusive, it's not counting 101 and 89. With our grade, it is 70, so we're checking, okay, so this condition is not met. Is this student grade greater than 69? Yes, and also under 90. That is true, so it must be a B grade. And we have automated it, just like that. Let's test again. Let's see what if none of these conditions are met? What if it's not greater than 49 and less than 60? Well, in that case, it must be under 49, so let's make it 48. And now we get an E grade. Stay in touch with the second part, where we will be discussing loops. Thank you.